Welcome to the Church Safety and Security broadcast with the Church Safety Guys. Brought to you by 𝗃𝗏RadioCenter.com, a Motorola value-added reseller. The Church Safety Guys is a nonprofit organization dedicated to equipping the vigilant, those men and women who stand watch, keeping our houses of worship and places of faith safe. We believe church safety and security must be a ministry first, and have engaged servant leaders who continually strive for excellence and teams of motivated volunteers that are always training. Join us for the next hour as the Church Safety Guys unpack safety, security, leadership, and ministry operations with your hosts, Dr. 𝗧𝗵𝗂𝗿 and Mike Scully. This broadcast is also available on YouTube, your favorite podcast platforms, 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃guys.com, and on the original Church Security app. Download it today. Feel free to like, subscribe, and share with your ministry.
Well, welcome to the Church Safety and Security broadcast with the Church Safety Guys. I am Mike, and I am joined this evening with Jared. Thanks for joining.
Yep. Not Dr. 𝗵𝗂𝗶, but I'll do my best to co-ride this next hour with you, Mike. Thanks for having me back.
Absolutely appreciate it. Always good to have you. James is probably mid-air as of right now. We had a good chance where he and I were able to kind of get together and work on a church security assessment this past weekend and up in the Fort Worth area. So we were able to kind of tackle that. Looks like I have a stowaway in my back here, my daughter. But yeah, we were able to execute that security assessment and start talking about a little bit of the next Church Security Essentials Conference, which we are planning to have in the Austin, Texas area in end of April 2024. So save the date that last weekend of April, and starting to materialize that as we speak. We kind of walked the church property this past weekend as well, and get a feel for how that's going to look and set up and get that all down, so we get that all put together. So excited about that.
Yeah, really looking forward to that conference and getting out to Texas and having some good barbecue and hanging out with some good people.
Absolutely. Austin is the location for it. As I told James, I said, hey, you're flying down here, make sure you get your barbecue fix. Whereas for me, I eat it all too much, frankly. So I'm like, anytime I leave Texas, it's like, give me anything but barbecue and anything but Tex-Mex. I want something else. So I try to do that whenever possible. So
yeah, variety being the spice of life.
Absolutely. Well, if you're joining us for the first time, thanks for doing so. We are, of course, live in our Facebook group, Church Safety and Security, also on YouTube. You can find us on our website, 𝗃𝗏𝗃𝗃guys.com, where you can also download the Church Security app onto your phone, and our episodes are available through that, as well as a whole bunch of free resources. All you got to do is register, and you can get access to a whole bunch of material for you and your church.
Yeah, those resources are great. It's, a lot of times people wonder, where do I start with, just basic policies, procedures, things like that. And all the templates are there. You can, you can go shopping and take what you need. As we were talking earlier before the show started, we're all fighting the same battle and got the same goals. And so we got to work together.
Absolutely. Well, we had a few weeks off here, and I participated in a men's retreat. So it was a chance to kind of take a pause in ministry every once in a while and make sure that we ourselves are filling our cup as we try to continue to pour out and help y'all. So it was good to step away and join a bunch of brothers, and kind of about an hour away from me out in Hill Country, Texas, and it was really good. So it was God revealed some good things, kind of did some working on I call it open heart surgery while we were conscious, I know many of y'all know what that's like, and yeah, so it's good to kind of work on the head and the heart, and fellowship with a bunch of brothers from church as well as a couple other churches. So glad to be back, excited back in the saddle here, and we have a great topic this evening. So we're going to dive in a bit and talk about church safety and security in a larger church setting. And with that, we can bring on our guest.
Yeah, happy to bring in Jack Rolfe from Illinois, and he's the safety and security manager up at Christ Community Church. And I'll let Jack kind of give us his background and introductions as we kick off this topic.
Super. Welcome back, Jack.
Thanks very much, guys. I'm glad to be here. I got to start in church security about close to 30 years ago, and it was a very involved thing. They asked me on Wednesday nights to keep the kids from running around in the building. And of course, now we're dealing with considerably more devious things and a lot of different threats. So I've been at it for quite a while. I was at a different church, and we had typically 7,000 or 8,000 people on a weekend. We had a church picnic with usually about 15,000 people at it. So a lot going on there. The building was 360,000 square feet, 116 acres. So it was a big deal. And we had about 100 people on our roster for security, not all active, not, some were just sort of their name only, but I had a real good crew. And that included a lot of law enforcement people, from federal officers all the way down to local police. So we had a great mixture of people. And I've been blessed to be able to go around the country and do consulting with various churches, and just like you guys, doing security assessments at facilities, training operations. And a few years ago, we started Secure Church in Chicago, which was headed up by a couple of FBI guys. COVID hit, and they kind of went strictly online, and it kind of faded away as a network in Chicago. And then we started up the Ministry of Church Defense as another networking group. And I know you guys were talking about you being in different networking groups, and I really highly recommend that to anybody. Trading intel, best practices, fellowship, prayer, and it just really helps. So love that you're focused on ministry as first and foremost for safety ministry, and it's always ongoing,
Yeah, 30 years experience. This is a relatively new thing. Church has been around a long time, but the idea of church safety and security has come along, and just in the last 25, 30 years. You were an early adopter, clearly, with even if it was just to keep the kids from running around and running amok. But
we officially formed our team in, I think, 2001, before the World Trade Center, and just felt that was the time to get something going officially. And a lot of churches, the ushers perform that function, or did, and now it's gotten to be a much more formal thing with actual safety training, and I think that we're better prepared and better off for it.
Yeah, it's often a phrase that I use is ushers that we make lethal versus those that already have those skills that we try to teach how to pray. But it is a good blend across the board of trying to find that heart, and understand that there may be people that come onto campus at any given time that need some extra grace, that may just, hey, may have something going on. And we're there to welcome them and try to give them an opportunity, an environment, just like anybody else, that they can fellowship with God and really in community, and hope that it reaches them. And so that's all we can offer. And at times it can try our patience, for sure. You may roll out the resources and concern and raise the red flag a little bit, and realize it's just a quirky person with weird behavior, and totally fine. But other times we hope you're prepared, but hope you never have to ultimately use it. And we were talking kind of offline a little bit about kind of things that can kind of raise our temperature, raise our blood pressure at different times, and things happen. I mean, at any given point. And it's a good day is a day when nothing happens.
Yeah, and I thinking about I guess we started our team here in 2008, I want to say, and it was after a pastor was shot in the pulpit in Southern Illinois, and the executive pastor at the time sent an email that's basic to the 4 or 5 police officers he knew in the church and said, well, I guess we need something with security. And that was kind of the, to your youth example, or to our, it was very reactive. And it's been fun to watch over the last couple of years, kind of the transition to recognizing it really is a ministry. Large or small, you're going to have people who come to your church to worship and may need a little, the EGRs, extra grace required,
Yep.
but also having a plan to do that. So, talk to us about your thoughts on that, Jack, kind of that transition as the ministry has been more formally recognized, moving from what I like to call church mall cops to really an engaged, part of the ministry of the church.
The tactics, the threats, the opportunities have, steadily increased and changed over the years. When we formed the first team, we had training by some of the TSA folks. One of the fellows that does contract work there came in. We also had a Secret Service guy that was able to give us some training. Being a large church, you get to draw from a lot more people and a lot more experience. And it's amazing the amount of talent that's in your church that you may not even realize. So we recently reformed our medical team as an example. And, we've got doctors and nurses and, people there every single week, and you just never really even knew about it. So the same is true with, I call them sheepdogs, and not necessarily law enforcement officers, but just people who are concerned about safety and security, want to contribute, want to serve. And first and foremost, we absolutely run it as a ministry. And we start off every shift with prayer. We pray throughout the week. If you're just trying to set up your own police force, it's a losing proposition. So it's really critical to bathe the entire thing in prayer. To we look at all the scriptures for security, which there are many. You guys reference Nehemiah. There's several there. There's our basic mission statement comes from Romans. And as much as it's up to you, live at peace with everybody. Our objective is to de-escalate. We always emphasize that we want to bring people into church, not drive them out of church. So it's, and it takes good people skills and, a little bit of finesse sometimes,
Absolutely.
Yeah, it certainly does. Tell us about, we talk with big churches and small churches and everything in between. Tell us kind of how you have structured your team and how they cycle through, how they sign up, how they operate scheduling wise, and kind of tell us about your infrastructure.
Thanks. It's always a question. I see that at a lot of churches. They set things up. It's different at every single church, but I've only been at this particular church for roughly a year, and we're really trying to establish a little different pattern. We want to have a multiplicity of leadership. I can't be there all the time. You can't be there all the time. And it's really helpful that you don't have one key person that's got the keys to everything. If they're not there, you're in trouble. So we want to basically set up our alpha team, which is our supervisor of the day, officer of the day kind of thing. And these are more experienced people that have been with us for a while, who have a greater understanding and, demonstrate good people skills, good communication skills. They're good prayer warriors. So we're just really establishing that. Then we have a sanctuary team, which, really is focused strictly on the sanctuary and coverage in there. Deployment is an interesting issue that I have seen a lot of different ways to do it. And then we have a Bravo team, which is the building guys, and they're just pretty much randomly going through the building and hitting at key areas. But so kind of establishing that. And I think the way that you do that is by having a well thought out mission statement. I mean, nobody likes to hear some of this stuff, but let's get serious about this. Have a mission statement, have a vision as to what this looks like, and be able to communicate that to anybody and everybody. The recruiting process can be challenging. Going through that right now. One of my favorite things is business cards. I'm not carrying flyers around or posters or little pamphlets, to do recruiting, but I always can have a business card in my pocket. It has a brief description of what the ministry is. It has a QR code that takes you to the church website where you can indicate an interest in serving. And then, we go from there. But, and just like Jesus, we're one by one. So people all the time are coming up and asking you about security, this, that, and the other thing. It's a great opportunity to start a conversation as well. Would you be interested in serving? And getting the right amount of guys and gals can be challenging, but we just need to have those discussions on a weekly basis.
Yeah, yep. You hit on something that I think is so key. And when I'm working with churches, the first thing I do is ask them, well, what's your church's mission and vision statement? And if you don't know it, find out, because then from there, you can build your team's mission to really partner with and be a part of the mission of your church. Otherwise, you're just kind of an a la carte, and you're not going to be an integrated piece of the what the church is doing. So yeah, I love the mission statement.
We're involved in every single ministry. We have children's ministries coming to us for things. We have Care Night, which is a support group type of things. They're coming to us all the time. Made a presentation to the seniors group. Everybody is interested and concerned about security.
Absolutely. Yeah, I know. I've found that it's a great way to kind of build off of the mission statement by identifying a series of objectives. Like, what is the church working on? Not just what's their core mission, but what are they working on? Is there a certain focus for the year? Is the message calendar and where they're going with unpacking certain scriptures? What does that look like for the year? Because it's going to evoke certain sorts of conversations and emotions and things like that. So I always like to incorporate that into the plan, but map out what are your objectives at the church level so that you can then say, all right, what are my objectives for my team? And then kind of take it a step further. What goals might I create for the team so that I can help them chase those objectives? And then once I identify those goals, what are the strategies that we need to deploy essentially that might help us achieve that goal? And finally, how do we measure it? So if we're measuring effectiveness, are we moving effectively towards our goal? Are we on the path to achieve an objective, yes or no? That may result in changing a strategy. It may result in tweaking an objective. It may result in changing coverage model or going back to your pastor or leadership and elders and saying, hey, this is what we're encountering. How can you help? Or any ideas? So to me, it's starts as an annual planning process, always marrying back to that mission and vision of the church, and then cascading down through your ministry.
Absolutely. And, our calendar year starts September 1st, basically for the ministry season. And again, we were interacting with every single ministry. I'm doing safety and security presentations to every single one of those groups. And they're all keenly interested in it, especially children's ministry. And here's a tip for y'all. You want to improve your attendance at church? You do a good job for children, you'll get the parents, and it just goes from there. So, and security is very important to them. If the parents feel comfortable in leaving their children in this classroom or that, then they're going to be there. We had several compliments come at us today in the nursery. They felt so comfortable with things. They saw the security. They saw what was going on. We're not out there walking around with uniforms and that kind of thing on, but people see your piece and they know what's going on. And we do also have a county sheriff on duty for our services Saturday nights, Sundays. So we have a visible presence as well.
Right. I have found that there's a lot of, with churches, it's not maybe advertised that you have a safety or security team at any church. It's not like something that is plastered on the website like the worship team or like your kids' ministry. But I have found a number of churches and spoken with folks, whether it's while I'm traveling, whether it's doing an assessment or even just on vacation and attending a different church. The number of folks that place value in having a safety team because they're like, hey, I feel my kids are better protected. So you know what? They may not choose to start going to a church based on that, but they may land or commit to going and becoming members of a church when they realize that their kids are in a safe environment.
Absolutely. And we have during the summertime, we have a very large vacation Bible school, if you will. It actually starts in early June and runs all the way through August with about 200 plus kids. So, and this is 5 days a week. That's lots of volunteers there, a lot of lift, but security is an important consideration. And we have invested well in physical security measures, and that can be a challenge for a lot of people. But it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money. Years ago, people would say, "What's your biggest expense?" And having a security team. And my answer always was pizza. You want to get a meeting, get somebody to attend, have pizza or coffee and donuts. But you can spend a lot of money on, you can spend a lot of money on closed circuit TVs, alarm systems, all that kind of stuff. And it's something you just do what you can when you can do it, and you slowly build up to that point.
Absolutely.
I think
facial recognition, but those systems start at about $100,000 and go up from there.
Right. Well, and you really, I mean, you hit on it. I think, as you're asking volunteers to come and share their time and share their expertise, whether they're sheepdogs who just have a heart for watching out for God's flock, or they're, high quality operators, experienced, tactical dudes. The importance of just, simply buying a pizza or bringing some coffee and donuts is expressing the appreciation and really valuing your volunteers. And I don't care if you got a team of 2 or 200, when they feel appreciated and respected, you're going to go a long ways in being able to partner with them. And they're going to do a great job of representing. They're the first line representation oftentimes of your church. And so when they feel valued and appreciated, and they're on board with the mission, that's exactly the first impression that you want people to have of your church. Right.
Part of our mission statement says that we are ambassadors of the church. Many times people come in, and the greeters have all gone in and sat down. The ushers are in the auditorium, and we're really their first point of contact. So we get to say hi and greet them and help direct them to different places in the church and welcome them. And when you walk in and feel welcome, that's all the difference in the world for a church.
Yeah, and I think a lot of greeters are really good at being the friendly face to the person who's having a great day. Our security team is the friendly face on somebody who's having an off day, and how much more important that showing the love of Christ to them on a bad day because they're at church because they're hurting and they need that community. I think sets us apart, kind of to be the super greeters.
Yep. Well,
and not swarm
we're a
them.
hospital for the hurting,
Yeah.
And boy, there's a lot of hurting people out there.
That there are. I mean, it's a fallen world, and we got spiritual warfare and all sorts of things going on. But I want to circle back to something you said there really earlier, that Bible school component, and even the technology. I mean, Bible school, of course, is all of our challenges as we prep and plan for that. We're coming off the heels of successful summers and kind of closing out, going into winter here. But now is the time to start talking about what did we learn from this year so that you can put it into the plan for next year. Don't wait until May to be planning for June. Start having those conversations with the church, the kids ministry. Start having those conversations with pastors and elders and say, all right, what might we need to tweak for next year? Is there anything? Is there anything we can do to kind of make it better or safer? Were there any incident? Pull up your incident data. Hopefully, not everybody tracks it as thoroughly as I think it would be good for them to do, but pull up your incident data, see what it was like. I mean, I sometimes joke.
After any major event, we do a post-event recap and do exactly that. But we don't wait a few weeks later. I mean, we do it right immediately afterwards. And so this is already in file for next June. Same thing after Easter or any kind of a major event. We always do that. We have a women's conference coming up in February, which will probably be close to 1,000 people. So we've already have those notes from last year. You know, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What can we tweak and adjust? So it's very, very important.
Yep. As we hit daylight savings time here, I feel like one of those things that churches and security it gets stuck in the moment is all of a sudden having an evening activity, and the light system hasn't been reprogrammed to adjust for the darkness, and all of a sudden you got people being dismissed, kids, sometimes teens, whatever, and you have a completely dark parking lot. And so it's making sure you plan for those sorts of things and make sure that the folks on the team know what to do, because chances are you may not have a facility person there in that evening service or that gathering that is happening around right now, and make sure that you can address that. I know there's been a number of churches that I've been at that all of a sudden you walk out and it's pitch black, and that's because their timer's off. So something to keep in mind.
Sounds good.
Cool. One other thing you mentioned there, Jack, was really around the equipment and the investment and different things. Walk us through some of what that looks like from what you've seen, both whether it's the church you're at now or the one that you came from with the much larger attendance, and describe kind of what that looks like, kind of scaling out with the different expenditures, those large budget items that you found that the church dealt with.
Yeah, and people's investment there has absolutely nothing to do with the size of their church. I know a very major mega church, probably one of the biggest in the world, who actually had a lot of CCTV, but nobody ever monitored it. It was just sitting in a room, and it's basically after the fact if you needed to go look at something. But nowadays you can go to any number of home centers and get some closed circuit TVs for $200. So it's not a huge investment. Yeah, they're not the best quality, but you can have a camera on where your offering is. You can have a camera on, critical points where your children's checking in, those kind of things. So it does not have to be a lot of money. We did this summer just equip one of our smaller campuses, and cost us about $12,000. And one of the biggest expenses is probably wiring. So if you're building something and you can think about that, that's a great idea. And I've seen churches where all their cameras are focused on the entrances and exits. Some are focused on the interiors. It's all over the board. But when you have the TV systems in there, it protects not only your children, but it protects the volunteers and workers, because there are accusations made against those people. And you can go back and check tape and say, well, that never happened. Here's the evidence of that. So it works both sides. We have magnetic door locks. So those are programmable, and I could actually control them sitting here at my desk at home. And that's for all of our campuses. So we know, let's just say there's a support group and they're going to meet from 6:30 to 8:30. We can program the doors so that they're unlocked, or a door is unlocked. Years ago, there was very, very little access control at any of the churches I knew. All the doors are open. We've got to be open for everybody. And then we had this guy pull up in a pickup truck and load up a few guitars and a soundboard, and broad daylight, weekday, just drove away. Nobody, they kind of saw him doing it, but nobody could get there fast enough. So then we have what's called Blue Point, which is it's like a fire pole, but it goes directly to the police department. So if you have an emergency and need the police, you can pull that, and it does go to a central alarm monitoring system, but they will notify the appropriate authorities and get a response there. I'm just installing more security film in some of the children's areas where they have a glass window, perhaps next to the door, that kind of thing. And that's not just for intruders, but if we had a tornado up here, it'll keep all the glass in those windows from flying around and injuring the kids. So those are some of the things. Obviously, we have fire alarms and those kinds of things. I strongly recommend everybody go out and get themselves a megaphone. It's about $100. But, power failure, everything goes off. You still have a way to communicate to all those people and advise them on how and where to go.
Yeah, you mentioned access control. I think that's a really good. Point that you can make. Like you said, we want to be open and we want to be welcoming, and so we've got all the doors open and everything. And one of the things that I've found helpful, kind of a talking point with the guest services or the pastor that kind of holds the reins to that is, isn't it better if we know exactly where the people are coming in so that every single person does get that greeting? It's not just a security standpoint. It's also a ministry standpoint that they get eyeball to eyeball contact with somebody because we're controlling where they come and go. And the added bonus is we're a little safer because we can profile them and assess them as they come in.
We have well over 30 different entry points, so it's a challenge. Another thing that almost nobody's looking at, and that I would certainly ask people to look at, is perimeter security. There's two threats involved in this. Number one is Aunt Alice, who hits the gas instead of the brakes and drives into the building, or a medical thing. Last year, we had somebody drove into the north side of our building and hit it at about 50 miles an hour. He had some kind of medical issue and basically passed out and just boom, right in there. So we put some landscaping rocks in the area where he came off the highway and have actually extended that a little bit. But we recently put in some bollards in some of our campuses because we have some real critical entry points. And the second threat is bad guys who are looking to make a big body count. And you don't need a gun. Guns are passé. Just go down to one of the home centers, rent a truck for $20 and drive it into a building. You'll get a lot more damage that way. And I don't want to suggest any ideas to people, but we have to protect against that. So in the short term, you could just park a car across that area and kind of block it. Longer term, you could put bollards in, which typically you're going to core the concrete out in front of the building, put a 3-inch pipe in there, slip these concrete things over the top of them. You can go with big concrete flower pots. I bought some for like $125 a piece, filled them full of concrete. So they were weighing 600-700 pounds, and concrete's what, $2 a bag or something. I mean, it was just
cheap.
Very cheap. Left a few inches for some dirt and some plants to make it look nice. You can drop landscaping rocks around to affect the same thing. So there's a lot of ways to get there that don't have to cost you a lot of money. We have a new housing development just going north of our church. I talked to the construction manager and said, hey, you guys are going to pay some guy $50 an hour to haul these boulders out of here, and I'm going to hire another guy to bring them back. Why don't you just drop them along my boundary line? Because, yeah, we could do that. So nice. I got all that done for free. That was really good.
That's good. But I feel like bollards are completely an underrated item that is not in many security teams' budget. But really necessary. I've walked many churches, most of which have not had a single thing protecting their courtyards, their little walkways, their patios, and in fact, many times their walkways are wide enough that literally you could drive a car right onto it. And so all they got to do is hop the curb. And if it's any of the newer poured curbs, there tend to be a rounder edge to it, so it's a little easier to come up over it, not a hard edge like you would see in a city street or things like that. And you got to look at multiple angles. So like the church I walked yesterday, they had multiple doors that you could access it from. Now, they had clearly thought some about it, so they put in a little bit of a knee wall across part of it, but there was still portions where you could come in around that knee wall if really intended. So it's like it created some level of separation. It probably was designed more as an opportunity for community and people sitting there after a service or between service, and not necessarily as a barrier per se, but it did create some separation. Now it's just a matter of working that to protect it a bit more. So I think it's important to look at it through that lens.
And with a large church like we have, it's in 30 plus entry points. We're not going to be able to protect everyone. But again, with the general objective being body count, we have our main entrance into the church, and that is what we would spend our money on.
Yep.
One key issue is you need to have the gap between those things less than 58 inches, because anything bigger you can drive right through. Our maintenance folks want at least one of those things to be removable, so they could literally drive their own truck in there to put decorations up, Christmas decoration, whatever. So that's another consideration. But there's a lot of ways to get there, and it doesn't have to cost you a lot of money.
Nope, not at all. I like your thought about the planter with the concrete. I think it doesn't become something that's ugly that the elders and others can't live with and say, hey, that's not going to look good, but it's functional at the same time.
Yep. And it really adds to your safety. It's also a psychological barrier. Somebody driving by, they're generally going to case the place and look at it and go, I don't think I can pull this one off here. So
yeah, you mentioned just having the earpiece and people who are paying attention. I often get the question, well, why don't you guys have uniforms, or why don't you wear shirts that say security? And at least what I found, and maybe you can speak to this, is the people who are looking for it will see it, whether they're keenly aware and interested in the security for the right reasons, or they're keenly aware of looking for security for the wrong reasons.
Yeah. Also, I'm not interested in painting targets on my guys.
Right.
You walk around with a vest or something. Now, some places that's appropriate and helpful. We have some inner city churches that we worked with, and they wear a vest and it says security on it, and that's appropriate for their environment. It would not be so much appropriate for our environment. And every church is different the way that they handle those things. So it's and the same thing with guns. It's a church by church decision. It's a very emotional decision. So every single church is different. You kind of have to do what's right for you.
Yeah, and it comes back to, if your mission statement's aligned with your church's mission statement, you're making value-based decisions that are based on principle, and that's where you get to customize it, you get to personalize it, you get to make it what's best for your local body of believers.
Yep. And every bit of this is scalable to any size church. Even a small church should do something about perimeter security.
Absolutely. That's one that I've seen is not often incorporated is having cameras in the parking lot, not just for theft and other sorts of things, but to get a better vantage point of, you got two main driveways approaching the church. Why not to like you guys mentioned earlier, Jared, receiving kind of the update from another church. Well, if you get that email and they say, it's a blue pickup truck and it has a white cap on the back, and they just peeled out of our church and they went east, and all of a sudden your camera picks up a blue pickup truck with a white cap coming in your driveway, you have especially if you have it not like you're saying, Jack, where you got to monitor it. It's great to have the camera system, but do you have somebody monitoring it and staffing that position? So cameras in the parking lot can be a really big asset to help you see something coming before you even have to buy you time. And giving you that extra time really give you a chance to deploy more options or have more choice in the matter of, okay, is that what we saw? Is that what we read? If that was an alert from somewhere else, maybe it's just a bolo. Maybe it's something that you've had this person on campus before. Maybe you trespassed them and this vehicle, and all of a sudden it's coming back onto campus. Well, now you can prepare for it and catch them in the parking lot, or when they've already entered the lobby and now it's making a scene. So things like that as well.
Yeah. The further away you can stop something, the better. If you can stop it in the parking lot, great. If you can just stop in the lobby, great. But
yeah, and I think we're talking about eyes in the parking lot, and that reminds me, again, a scalable principle is engaging your other ministries to be force multipliers, so that your parking lot team is able to communicate that if they see the family fight going on in the van 5 minutes before service, they can let you know that you train your greeters and your kids workers in the see something, say something mentality and what to look for. Whether you're a church, again, of 100 or 10,000, the more eyes you've got and the more communication you've got, you're able to partner better.
And not everybody wants to act, but they certainly are eyes and ears. And if you say something it's not going on somebody's permanent record or something. 9 times out of 10, it's nothing, but it's way better to say something. And we do engage our traffic team. They have the first opportunity to look at people. Greeters, everybody is part of it because security is built in layers. Our little team is not enough to impact the entire thing. So it's really important that ushers, they see something, hey, go check out that guy over there or whatever. They can really, really help a lot. And like you said, force multiplier, cameras are a force multiplier also.
Absolutely. I think that comes into kind of onboarding those ministries in the right way so that when you get new volunteers, that they know you have a safety security team, that they know what that means and how to engage and really to be that see something, say something. And Jared, I know you do a great job of that at Rock Point. Maybe talk for a second about the onboarding and the intro video that you put together.
Yeah, so about 2 years ago, I put together just a 4.5-minute video on the See Something, Say Something, and really scripted it not for security, but for how would I want my teenage daughter to understand this? How would I relay it to a mom who's a soccer mom and she just wants to be a better member of the church? And so really scripting it and making it available to all the ministries. One, like you mentioned, meeting with ministries, give them the presentations, building that relational equity so that they trust you and feel they can come to you. But also just giving the most basic tools to them of, hey, if the hair on the back of your neck goes up, God gave it to you for a reason. Listen to it. It's okay to say something, because even if it's nothing, like you said, I'd rather it be nothing than find out, gosh, I really wish I would have said something. And so by making a 4-minute video that kind of puts the cookies on the bottom shelf, it really engaged people to go, I can be a contributor to the safety and security of our church without having to go practice Brazilian jiu-jitsu and, carry a firearm and everything else. It made it more of a community approach. And breaking it down simply, people want to be helpful. They want to be involved. And the same way you show your volunteers value, they feel valued because you're engaging with them and saying, man, will you partner with me? And it's a great motivator when, again, you're all on the same page. You're there for the same reason, to serve the people.
And our church leadership has been supportive of putting me in front of those groups. And we've done exactly that, how to recognize threats, where all the different equipment is. Do you need a trauma bag? Do you need an AED? Do you need a fire extinguisher? All those kinds of things, important that people have an understanding of where they are. So, engage the whole church. Security is everybody's job.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of along those lines, and you had mentioned it earlier, the importance of team leads and what we call them team leads. We've got campus safety hosts is another title that we've given some folks around here. But yeah, building in those layers of leadership. Like I said, I was just at a conference last week doing a breakout on building and sustaining teams. And I said, if you're the only person on your team, then it's your job to find a second person. And now you've got 2 leaders. And so really building, talk to us a little bit about, you mentioned you can't be there all the time. And so that's a very practical reason for building in team leads. The other thing I found, and maybe you can speak to this, is my team leads kind of become lay pastors to their teams. Once you get a team of a certain size, you can have meaningful relationships with them and keep up with everybody. But by having them known and being known, those team leads really provide more value than just being the guy who will take the call so that you can shut your phone off. They're that first line of ministry internally.
Mm-hmm. Over the years, I've seen tremendous ministry happening within the team. The team is a small group. It's a community group. And as it grows and develops, you have more leaders and such. But just having prayer for different people in the team, we're all experiencing the same thing everybody else in church is. Relationship problems, financial problems, health problems, yada, yada. It just... so we can really support one another as a small group and as a prayer team. And the development is, you've got to share responsibility. You've got to train for responsibility. You can't just say, hey, you're the guy. But if they don't know anything, so I try and script out, our business, if you will, is very situational. It's really difficult to plot out all the different stuff, but we can look at, and we do have expected issues that would pop up. And then here's the remedies. Here's how we would want to handle them. And most of that goes around with de-escalation, which I train on every single week. It's just a 2-minute thing, in our initial prayer with the group. And then we ask one of the questions. There's a fellow that puts out a deck of cards, de-escalation cards. And they're good, just different situations. What if a guy goes nowhere, runs the washroom and does something? What if there's a woman who's crying, and just all sorts of situations that we would likely encounter, and then we can have a discussion about it. And on a weekly basis, everybody's thinking about this stuff. And again, I don't care if your team's 3 people or if it's 30 people or whatever, it's absolutely scalable for everybody.
Yeah, it's amazing to watch. As you said, it turns into a small group. It turns into a community group, and they're sharing each other's burdens. And then at the flip of a switch, they're talking about, hey, what if this happened over here? How would we respond? And so without even realizing it, they're tabletopping, and they're, just engaging their minds in that scenario-based stuff. And then they're right back to, yeah, I'm just really having a hard time with my oldest kid, and I just don't know what to do. And they go, I had the same problem. And it's amazing to see the discipleship and ministry when you're intentional to put the right layers in place.
Yep. And we do the same thing for our guests that are coming in. A lot of people are afraid to approach a POI, a person of interest. Hey, just go talk to them. Yeah. We had somebody from a protester group that was in there, and he was identified and he was wearing a Harley shirt on. So I walked in, hey, you got a motorcycle? And I got my earpiece in. I didn't say anything about anything controversial. I just started asking him about motorcycles and stuff. And, we have a group here that rides, and he just got real quiet and he was gone in 5 minutes. But, just go and engage in friendly conversation. Again, that's kind of part of being the ambassador, part of de-escalating things, and never brought up the reasons why we're looking at them. But so it really helps.
The opportunity to really minister to brothers and sisters in Christ, and as a team like this, when you tend to be the part of, safety and security, it tends to be the ones that are earliest there and latest to leave. And so as a result, you tend to have more face time with those brothers and sisters than some other ministries do, on certainly on a Sunday. And so I do find that, especially within we know men tend to be a little bit more tight-lipped about what's going on. We kind of keep it inside, and we don't talk about things a lot. And yet, as a result, it creates this perception that we're the only one going through the thing that we're going through, and no one else ever possibly could have gone through the same thing. And obviously that's the stinking thinking really that goes out there, that certainly it's not true, but it's the same thing I've seen. It's kind of the parallel. I would liken it to women who for many years and mostly still, they don't share the fact that they've gone through a miscarriage. But when you actually find somebody who has shared that, all of a sudden the number who also then share that they also have, it's just amazing that there's that support that's there. So I see that in a big way, how safety and security really does become that brotherhood, that discipleship of each other, where it can be even recognizing that as a leader, hey, I need to take a Sunday off. Hey, I need to go get fed. Hey, you know what? Maybe I was part of that heated conversation in the parking lot before service. It can happen to any one of us. And yet we find the time to kind of pray with each other, kind of sow into each other's lives, and really train, because not all of us have experienced that. The training, I don't just mean tactics, and I don't just mean how you're going to respond, but really as in, hey, I haven't navigated this, but you have. Can you help me?
Yeah. It's important to tell people, give people permission to do that, because a lot of them wouldn't go there because, I'm not a pastor, I'm not this or that.
Right.
So in your training meetings, again, we're talking about being ambassadors. We talk about what that means, de-escalation. Go talk to people, be friendly, love them, show them the love of Jesus. until you don't need to show them that, you know. It's but you get way more with smiles and handshakes than anything else.
Indeed.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, quick story. I'm casual today because we had a groundbreaking ceremony for a new kids building, and so it's out in the sun all day today and yesterday, and it was funny because in the groundbreaking ceremony, our pastor actually referenced a longtime member of our security team who everybody knew him as the cowboy under the tree because he would set up underneath the tree on the entrance to the kids area. And the number of people, sadly, he passed away on Friday. But the number of people when they heard about that who said, I know that guy. He's the first guy that greeted my family when we came to church. I know that guy, the cowboy under the tree. My kids love talking to him, love saying hi to him. And just, again, back to being willing to just be the handshake and the smile, what a huge difference that makes in and impacting people's lives. That you can't undervalue that, and communicating the value of that really helps get volunteers on board with catching that vision for making a difference.
Yep.
Yeah, a story like that really does. I mean, anybody who's left that kind of a mark and a legacy in that sense, you know, kind of that, you know, God had his fingerprint all over that. And it's pretty amazing how the least recognizable, so you would think it can come always down to, I've heard stories where years later, students talk about the janitor at their school and how impactful that it wasn't their favorite teacher, that the janitor was the person that was the most impactful on their life because of various stories that they told, or he was there when the bully got them, or whatever might happen. And so things pop out of nowhere. You're not, you know, where you least expect it. It's that guy under the tree with a cowboy hat is pretty common. I think, at least for those of us in the southern states here.
We wear stocking caps up here.
Yeah. There you go.
Halloween, it was 21 degrees and snowing like crazy.
Whew. Yeah, that's part of why I left the north.
Yeah, it was in contrast, it was 92 today during our groundbreaking ceremony. So it was, we were slinging a lot of water.
I believe it. Yeah, no, a lot different. No, that's great. Well, we're just about out of time, running out here. Jack, any last words or things that you'd like to kind of encourage folks that may be taking on a team, growing like Bonfire, and really try to figure out, how am I going to navigate this and where do I go next?
First, cover everything in prayer. I mean, I don't care how big or small you are, what's going on, you got to pray. So the Lord is faithful to put a hedge of protection around us, and certainly there's tons of resources online from any number of sources. When I got going, the first one I went to was the Jewish Defense League, and they have some pretty good stuff. And that was 20 some years ago. But you guys offer an awful lot of help and aid to people. It may seem like an overwhelming task when you get started, but it really is. You just take it a step at a time. So, you know, I encourage everybody, big or small, churches, rural, suburban, you know, out in the middle of nowhere. It's well worth the effort, and the ministry benefits are huge. And don't look at it so much as cost. Most of the insurance companies will give you discounts on your insurance, so it'll literally pay for itself in a lot of cases.
That's great.
Just make sure you got a good pizza place nearby.
Yeah, always. No, that's great. Hey, yep, that's possible too. Well, Jack, thanks so much for coming back on the show. We really appreciate every guest that comes on. I think it's a true testament for folks like yourself to come back. In other words, I know we don't always take ourselves so seriously enough, and at times we do joke around, but appreciate the opportunity to have you on again. I know the audience appreciate kind of the wisdom and sharing kind of your experiences and thoughts on the years of service that you've had in this space. So it's always great to chat with folks like yourself. So thanks so much.
Very much. Appreciate talking to both of you, and sorry to hear about Cowboy.
Yeah.
But we know he's in a good place.
He is absolutely in a great place. So yeah, thank you, Jack. It was great chatting with you, and look forward to having you on again in the future.
Sounds great. Thanks.
All right. Thanks.
Well, another good conversation. Time flies. I mean, I look up and it's 20 minutes. I'm like, hey, we got plenty of time. And then you blink and it's 55 minutes and we got to wrap up. So a lot of good stuff there.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not really sure why at the beginning of the hour, I'm like, I sure hope I can come up with something to talk about for an hour. Cause my wife will tell you, you'll have no problem talking for an hour. So
we love having you in the co-host seat. That's good to help out with that. Appreciate you coming on again. For those out there, thanks for taking the time to watch. As always, you can connect with us at 𝗓𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗑.com. You can download the Church Security app and get free resources there. Do save the date for the last weekend in April. That'll be our 2024 Church Security Essentials Conference. And that's going to be in Austin, Texas. And so that's in my backyard, which would be great to not have to hop on a plane this time. But very drivable from a lot of different spots in Texas, which is great. This will be a 2-day offering. So we are looking at ways to combine a couple of different ways where you can add on some options and things that you may need some additional training in key areas. We're looking to try to bring in couple folks. We're lining up a really big keynote, TBD, to kind of announce that in the future. We do hope that tickets will be able to go on sale by early December. So working on the details as fast as we can there to try to get that going and get that ready for early December to go live with ticket sales. Do want to call out the most recent book that James did throw out. I do have it over my shoulder, which is Thriving Together. You got the 5 secrets to ministry team success. So that's available on Amazon, as in every title is over my shoulder there. Appreciate the support of those buying the books. That does help kind of pay for plane tickets and things like that, and allow us to be able to travel to and speak with different churches. So if you do have an interest in supporting the mission and the vision of the Church Safety Guys, we do have ways to donate through our website. Again, 𝗓𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗑.com. Last words, Jared?
Yeah, what a great episode. I'm glad Jack was on. I'm looking forward to the conference next April. And in the meantime, Jack mentioned the network where he's at. I know that we've got a network here. Encourage you to network with other churches, make it a group trip, come out to the conference. But in the meantime, the support that you can find just from local bodies of believers fighting the same fight is, I just can't overstate the value of that. So love what we're doing nationally with Church Safety Guys. Make that happen locally so that we can support each other and ultimately further the kingdom.
That's so good. All right. Have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you again next week right here, same place, same time. Take care. God bless.
Good night, all.
Thank you for joining the Church Safety Guys broadcast, brought to you by Vigilant Impact. We hope that you found it informative, and we appreciate your feedback and interaction. Be sure to share our broadcast with your teams, join the discussion online, and connect with us on social media or at our website at 𝗓𝗵𝗂𝗍𝗑.com. For other great ministry resources, download the Church Security app. Remember, keep a servant's heart, a mindset of ministry, and semper disciplina. Always be training. Have a blessed week.
Cool.